Hello everyone and welcome to the very first edition of RueTV Live. My name is Rue. Thank you so much for joining us for this inaugural episode. Today on the show we've got former MTV VJ Iann Robinson of the Knife Edge Chop podcast. Ian's got a great new podcast out. I want you all to check it out on iTunes. We have a great chat. Unfortunately, a lot of it had some audio difficulties, but we managed to get enough to show you a great, heartfelt chat with Iann Robinson, and I hope you do enjoy it. Stay tuned after the podcast. Stay tuned after the interview, because after the interview, I am going to super kick that Halloween mask off of Brock Lesnar's head. Because what better way to kick off a new podcast, a new show, than to literally kick it off? And I'm going to kick it off right after Ian's interview. Stay tuned, guys. We'll be right back. You legit were the CM Punk of MTV. You were the voice. I mean, I grew up watching, not watching. I grew up listening to punk rock. I grew up listening to hardcore, and I can hark back to a time. I believe the show was called 12, 20 Angry Viewers or some shit
10
like that.
Angry Viewers, yeah. 12 Angry Viewers.
And when I saw Iann Robinson, who was sitting right here wearing an H2O shirt, I didn't feel so alienated and,
yeah,
you know, it was just, but that's not, you know, merchandise has nothing to do with it. Your attitude.
No, I get it. When you see somebody wearing something that you don't think other people know about, it makes you feel a bit less alone in the world, for sure.
Yeah, well,
I get that.
In general, especially during the time you were there, which was I'm not an expert, but I believe that was during the time of the Backstreet Boys, Britney Spears, horse crap. I don't know.
They were part of it. The funny part is they were the less offensive part of it. Okay. I don't begrudge it. Like, I try not to begrudge anybody what they. I mean, I'll argue my opinion on your music, but I try not to begrudge anybody. And as NSYNC and Backstreet Boys and Britney Spears, real nice kids, never really very offensive. I just thought they were inane. They were harmless. The shit that was really super popular that I felt was really, like, vile was rap metal, because these people were trying to pretend they were artists. Like, Britney Spears was never like, I'm an artist. She was like, I wear little clothes and dance. Like, that's all she ever said. Right. Same thing with, like, Justin Timberlake. I had an hour-long conversation. He's like, I know exactly what I am. I'm good looking. I can kind of sing. So I make pop things and people love him. He got it who he was.
Talented actor, by the way. He turned into Parlay.
Yeah, he did turn into a talent. But, like, I would interview Korn and they would try to, like, talking about how deep they were and how esoteric. And I'm like, you're the guys that, like, only listened to Slayer outside the Circle K, and then you heard Tool and it saved your life. Like, you're not deep. Like, you're the guy that would wear the 3/4 button-up black coat and eyeliner and think you were different. Like, that's not depth. That's factory horse shit. And the real thing that I got in trouble with is not the Backstreet Boy guys or any of that stuff. The shit that I get in trouble with was I fought tooth and nail against the rap metal stuff because I just felt it was disgusting on an artistic and a music level. I still do. And that was where
that was the Linkin Park
that was where I got into trouble. Is like those guys would be like, oh, Ian, you're our metal guy, we're gonna be talking to Linkin Park. You'd be like, no, I'm not talking to them. And they would have to send, like, Gideon or somebody down there, because I'm like, I'm absolutely not talking to them. Why? Because I have no interest in helping them further their career. And that's where me and MTV really, butted heads. And the way MTV gets you is they put their hooks in you and they say, we're gonna make you famous. My problem is I don't care about being famous. I really liked the money because they were dumping barrels of money into my account for doing nothing except making out with interns. Like, there was, like, I was doing nothing and making shit tons of money and just running around spending it like a madman. So, but if you don't want to be famous and you don't want to be friends with the rock stars, then you don't have a problem being honest, and then they have a problem controlling you, and it kind of goes down a negative hill.
Yeah. There was it really was just, I mean, especially towards the end of your run, just that, as a punk rock kid growing up, I mean, I never looked at MTV as the end all be all anyway, but just the fact that I knew you came from that ilk and you were there and you were kind of the representative of what we enjoyed. That's what I really, you know what I mean? It just,
I mean, I tried, probably the greatest compliment that's ever given to me is that, Kurt Loder told me that you can if you trace back to the exact point where MTV lost all credibility and the serious downward slide to what they've come in started, it was the day they fired you. When they fired you, credibility went out the window, and it was only a matter of time. And that's a huge thing for someone to say about, little old me and the direction of a major iconic thing like MTV. That's great. My favorite thing is that 15 years, or what is it, 13 years after I got fired and I left, my opinion matters to people on some base level. Or I get somebody who's like, I get a lot of people who said, you know what, I discovered underground music because I watched you on MTV. Or I get people who say, there was a woman, a friend of mine at work, who he told, hey, the guy that MTV works at our job now. And the girl was like, I got the confidence to come out of the closet because Ian was on MTV and he was heavy and tattooed and yelling and screaming and being a dick.
Yeah.
I hear shit like that, and that's worth all the fights and the battles. And that's what I try to hold on to when I think about my time there and all that I lost when I decided to slap everybody in the face and get fired and not be able to work again for a long time. It made it all worth it, because there's a lot of people who walked out of there with a lot of fame and fortune who aren't taken seriously, who no one gives a shit about and doesn't want their opinion. So to still be relevant 13 years later is kind of my, ultimate fuck you to them. So
yeah, no, I hear you. And you should be proud of that, because there's not many, people who can own up to that and claim that, it's just that whole, let me tell you a quick little thing here. One of my favorite movies, I don't know if you've ever seen it. It was made by a guy named Terry Swigoff. It's called Ghost World. It's got Steve Buscemi in it. Yeah. They made
it's based on a comic book that I used to read.
I have it right here, actually. It's based on a graphic novel comic book, which I have here. Ghost World. It's very good. There's a scene in it when one of the characters, Enid, she shows up dressed up in 70s punk rock attire. She shows up to the record store, and the record clerk there says, "Oh, haven't you heard? Punk rock is over. Or punk rock is dead." And she basically says, "Oh, I know it's dead. It's just this retro look or whatever." But the comment and the reason I'm bringing this up is the record store clerk goes, if you really want to be punk rock, be like me. Get a big job with a big company. Mess things up from the inside." And it reminded me of Ian. I don't know. It just reminds me of Ian.
Thanks. That's nice to hear.
The whole MTV deal where you got, you not to saying you mess things up, but you at least, like I said, and it's cliched, but voice of the voiceless type deal. And you were that voice from the inside of a huge conglomerate owned by Viacom that, normally.
I appreciate that. That was who luckily, it wasn't hard because that's who I was. I came from that. I came from New York hardcore. Yeah. I was a loudmouth when I was writing for small magazines, and they hired me. They hired me because they wanted that, and then tried to change it, and I didn't change it, and that's how that happened. Like I said, it's hard to talk about it without sounding like an egotistical prick, but I take great reverence. There's a band that I absolutely worship, called Killing Joke. Okay. And they're one of my favorite bands of all time. And Jazz Coleman is he's a tremendous writer, and I've read his book, and he's a great lyricist. And there's a song on their Killing Joke 2003 record called "They'll Never Get to Me," and the line is, "I'll never let you get to me. Survival is my victory." And that was always my thing, is that Carson Daly and all these other people who were there, who probably have a lot more money than me and probably had a lot easier of a time, but they're irrelevant now. They're a footnote. No one cares. And I still get calls from bands. I still get calls from people, it's Village Voice, or, when I wrote for Crave Online, people who are like, we want to pay you because we think your opinion is still valid with the people because you held some kind of integrity. And, it didn't always feel that way. For a long time, it just felt like I just fuck. But, 13 years later, my life being what it is now, I might not be famous, and life may be a little bit more sort of working class than it for other people, but I'm still relevant. I'm still here. MTV has fallen completely apart, has fallen almost completely to the wayside, is basically almost out of business from what I hear, or at least the music part of it is. They're still, showing off pregnant teens and that kind of stuff. Yeah. But, I'm here. They're really not. The people that were ahead, that people that were responsible for me losing my job were all fired unceremoniously because it discovered the kind of people they were and what they were doing. Surviving that and still being here and still being relevant, that's the best thing. Like, that's all I could ask for. Like, people like you saying, this is what you represented to me. That's it, man. Like, that's worth more. And I know it sounds cliche, like I'm running for office, but that's worth all the money and the fame in the world to me, because I grew up in a scene where integrity was everything. And
right.
So.
No, absolutely. Absolutely. I'm with you on that. Do you ever, speaking of that scene, New York hardcore, do you remember Warzone, Rabies?
Oh yeah. One of the greatest things that I will die with is that Rabies had always wanted to shoot a music video for Warzone, and they never been able to. And they were on, what was that record label run? Tony Victory, because it was Tony Victory, that guy. Ugh.
Before it went to shit, yeah.
Yeah. But before Tony sold Thursday and made so much money he didn't care anymore.
Yeah.
They came to us because I used to have a small editing and directing thing for small bands. We did stuff for the Unsane and for H2O and for Sick of It All and stuff.
Right.
And we got to do a video for Warzone, and that was not too long before Ray died. And that's always something, good and bad, rumors, not whatever, with Ray. That's always something that will always warm my heart, is that Ray B's this icon of New York hardcore being like, hey man, you helped, you guys, me and my two partners at the time, make one of our dreams come true. That's one of those standalone moments that I will take with me to the grave.
No, absolutely. Well, I think that's a perfect spot to wrap it up, Ian. Thank you so much.
Sure, man. Sorry we need to talk more about music, but wrestling is, that's what I'm doing right now.
That's okay. That's fine by me, man. But yeah.
One quick thing I want to shout out. You're in Philly, right?
Yes, I am. Yes.
Yeah, I want to shout out my buddy Vinny Paz has a new record coming out October 28th called The Cornerstone of the Corner Store. So go buy it. And then if you're looking for tattoo art, go see my boy Gavin at Crescent Street Tattoos. You can't go wrong, because those are my boys, and they always do nice. They have a podcast called the Broad Street Breakdown, and they're always very, very generous with their shout outs to me. So I had to do that here.
Most definitely. And where can we find you online, Ian, for people who don't know?
So you can go to, we're on Knife Edge Chop is on iTunes. On Facebook, just look up Knife Edge Chop, or you can look up Ian Robinson. I'm on there too, and I don't really turn anybody down. You can look up knifeedgechop.blogspot.com. I'm doing more writing there. And then I'm trying to think what else. Sunset Flip Network. If you can't find it on iTunes, we're on there. And then I'm trying to think what else. Yeah, that's it. I mean, really, on Twitter, at Knife Edge Chop, or at KEC Ian Robinson. And then on Instagram, it's knife_edge_chop. And you can follow us on all of those fun places. And yeah, so, let us know what you think. Please watch or listen to the show. It means everything to us when people do. And thanks for letting me on, man. I really appreciate it.
Most definitely. And thank you, Ian, for popping the RueTV live chair. You're our first guest ever. So.
Cool, man. I'm honored. Thanks a lot, dude.
Most definitely, man. All right. Thank you, Ian. Take care. And say hi to your dog for me. I know I saw some pictures of her.
I will, for sure.
All right,
man. Take care.
Take care. See ya.
Bye.
I hope you enjoyed our interview with Ian Robinson. Hope to have Ian back on the show. I apologize for part of the interview being lost because of audio difficulties, but it is now time to say goodbye. RueTV Live Episode 1. Next week, Sean Halpin, comedian Sean Halpin, the hilarious comedian, YouTuber Sean Halpin on the show next week. I'll see you all very soon. See you next week, guys.